Hi, my name is Kristen Orhowski, and today I would like to talk about the history of the instrument we know as the piano. The piano as we know it today was hundreds of years in the making, and I'd like to just take a brief moment to talk about some of the predecessors of the piano and go into detail as to how the piano came out of those instruments. All right, in the early 1400s we have the clavichord. It's basically the earliest piano type instrument. The way it worked was there were keys, and on the end of each key there was a metal instrument called a tangent that when the key was struck would just reach up and hit the strings that went horizontally across the whole instrument. Because the tangent stayed on the key, the string, while the key was being depressed, it made it possible for the player to have some control over the dynamics and over the tone, but basically the whole dynamic range was limited to mezzo piano, and the player couldn't really do much with the sound of the instrument. The same goes for the harpsichord, which was around at the same time. There's a few differences between the harpsichord and the clavichord, mainly that the harpsichord was plucked strings, or strings plucked by quills. The volume had to be altered mechanically. There was no dynamic range, and it had a harsher and higher sound than the clavichord, which made it popular for use in churches because it could be heard over the organ. Here's a look at the inside of the harpsichord. As you can see, it's pretty straightforward. The strings just go straight back, and when the key is pressed, the quill just plucks the string and makes a note. Next, pianists became frustrated with the fact that they couldn't really do anything with the instrument. They had no dynamics. They couldn't, change the sound. So after multiple failed attempts by various people, in 1700, Bartolomeo Cristofori invented the pianoforte, which does exactly what the name of it would suggest it does. It can play soft and loud. It was the first successful keyboard instrument that had hammers hitting strings, which is very significant because that's how the modern piano basically works. I mean, it's a little bit more advanced, but there was something called the escapement that this man developed, and what happens would be the hammer would hit the string, but because of this mechanism, it would come right off the string, allowing for free vibration while the key was still depressed. So that's what allowed for the dynamic ability of the instrument to play different dynamic levels. In the 1750s and 60s, there was political unrest in Europe that caused a lot of the piano builders to head off to England, which led to the development of two schools of piano making. The Viennese, which was started by Cristofori, had lighter, simpler pianos, and the English had a heftier sound and a heavier structure, as you can see by the two pictures, the differences between the instruments. From then on, there were just some gradual developments that led to the piano as we know it today. But there was one big breakthrough. In 1821, Sebastian Erard invented the double escapement system. Before this, when a key was depressed, in order to re-hit that note, everything had to kind of reset and go back to normal before the key could be depressed again, which, only took a couple seconds, but it was enough time that rapid repetition wasn't really possible. But what Erard did, he came up with a way to allow the hammer to hit the string again before it completely resets so that there could be rapid repetition, which is good because it allowed for more repertoire to be written that had that in it. And then along came the Romantic movement, and everyone got kind of dramatic and wanted to play these big pieces. So the need for more power in the piano just kind of gradually led to, heavier strings, a heavier structure. It became a full iron frame for the grand piano, where before it had just been wood. And it just kind of turned into the modern piano. It hasn't changed much since 1885, and we all know what it looks like. But there's a cool bird's eye view of the modern piano. And basically how it works, it's just kind of a modern version of everything I've been talking about. There's felt-covered hammers striking steel strings. The hammer bounces back, kind of, the double escapement system again, which allows the string to continue vibrating. But unlike past instruments, the vibrations are transmitted to a sounding board, which is the big gold part, which amplifies the sound so it's just more than the strings vibrating. So it can be a louder and it can project more the sound. And now there's a damper so that when the key is released, the damper stops the string from vibrating and stops the sound. I thank you for your time, and that's the end of the presentation.